grab yourself a cigar.
It's time to light them up.
Welcome back to Cigar Talk. I'm your host, Rob Jones. We got Bryant Falconer, best cigar co-host.
There you go.
From coast to coast to co-host.
There you go.
You see what I'm saying there?
We saw what you're trying to say. Eminem, you are not, bro.
No.
Eminem,
I'm more like D&D.
Pre-show.
Fair.
I'm doing good.
Fair.
Man.
You keep me.
Yeah. That's the hardest job in the world.
So, hey, guys, welcome back to Cigar Talk. We appreciate you. And you know what? This is the perfect time for you to cut your cigar. Toast the foot and light it up and enjoy a cigar with us, man.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk about what we're smoking. I'm going to you know what?
Yeah, you going first, pimpin'.
Normally, let me just tell you guys, if this was the pre-show, you would have just heard a FU, okay? That's the level
Did they just hear it still? Come on.
Well, they didn't actually hear me say it.
Guys,
so they might have heard it in their mind, but
it wasn't you.
Yeah, but so anyway, I mean, you're pimping out tonight,
what are you smoking?
All right, I am smoking a Medallia Toro. Good smoke, good smoke. You know, this is a go-to cigar for me.
Most definitely.
So what are you smoking?
Dun, 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 dun. Catch it as it rises up.
Dude, I hear like Aretha Franklin singing in the background as that cigar comes into focus. Yeah. That
forbidden, baby.
The forbidden Opus X. And Jay just told, I have been like, the first day I was there that I saw these beautiful wonders, I was a little light in the wallet. And I was like, you know what? No, they're not going to go very fast. I'll get some on the back end.
That's
no
the biggest
problem.
lie ever.
And then Jay tells me, I think we got like 4 left. I'm like, call the shop. Tell them
Put me one back.
Put my name on that, So anyway, yeah. So how about it so far, brother?
Bruh, it is delicious. It is magnanimous.
Does it live up to the hype?
Yes.
Because, a lot of cigars have hype.
And they talk about it, and dude, this is living up to the hype. It's living up to the truth. It is. I thank Jay for, he's like, I got it. I was like, give me one.
Hey, you know what would be cool is if while you were talking about that hype, you would talk into the mic.
I was talking
No,
to the
you were
damn
getting
mic.
over here.
Anyway.
And over here.
Anyway.
I'm just saying.
You look like somebody.
Oh, the producer's going.
Stay on cue.
Stay on cue.
Stay on cue.
We have a tight schedule. You talk to Steve Saka for, 2 hours. So, I need you to stay on track.
We got to get this done.
He's like, the show's going to be like 2.5 hours. And I was like, I don't care how long it is.
They're going to love it.
Well, they may love it. They may hate it.
When they get into that interview.
Oh, dude. Let me tell you guys, you're in for a real treat. We had Steve Saka for almost 2 hours on an interview. And you know what? That dude, you know what? A lot of people I've heard think that he is like a little wild.
Yeah.
I don't think he's wild at all. I think he's so intent on what he's doing and the realness. And I even said, the one thing you got is that you are completely relatable. You know what I mean? I'm a cigar smoker, hardcore. You're a hardcore cigar smoker. And he's like a dude that's been doing it way before we even knew what being a cigar aficionado meant.
He long hair, shaking his head.
If he had hair.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's just the way he appears to me when it comes to sticks, man. He is 100% balls to the wall, foot to the floor. I can't drive 55 with
and
this
it's like, my favorite, well, you know what? I'm not going to talk about what we talked about because it's a great interview. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Let him get to 2 hours.
So we got to... Let's talk about our sponsors right quick.
Oh, most definitely.
We got Case Elegance. And let me tell you something. I seasoned another Case Elegance cigar.
Cigar?
cigar humidor. Okay.
You season another humidor.
I seasoned another humidor, and dude, Case Elegance makes it so freaking easy. Dude, it's like if they wrote no, it's for dummies.
Yeah.
How to season a humidor for dummies. And
here it is.
Dude, let me tell you something. Because of the humidor I've been using for a long time, I just throw Bovetta packs in there, and I don't really know exactly what I'm doing, but it just seems like it works. Dude, they lay it out, and it's like, hey, dumbass, this is how easy it is. But it takes all the guesswork out of it.
It does. Just follow the instructions.
Right. And I've never read any of the other instructions.
But you read those.
Right, because it was just like 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, and you're done. Yep. And the thing about it is, I can't follow all rules.
Yes, we know.
So one of the rules is, you season it for 3 days.
Yes, that's correct.
I seasoned it completely the way they said, and then I loaded it full with 2 boxes of cigars. I didn't wait for the 3 days. But let me tell you something. Within 3 days,
I see it.
What's it that?
71%.
71%, and I haven't messed with it since.
Yes, I see it.
Dude.
Hey, you did right, man.
Dude, they make a badass humidor.
But for those of us that follow rules, all you got to do is just read it. A, B, C, D, and E. That's it, and you're done.
I'm just telling you.
We know. We know you, dude.
Yeah. I can do about 4 instructions, and then I'm done.
When he got the E, he was like, nah, I'm good. He's got
A,
water in
B,
there.
C, D, boom, I'm done. We're good. Load it up, But dude, I love the high gloss finish they do on their humidors, other than the Army one.
Yes,
dude,
that
so Army green humidor is badass.
That's all I can say.
Have you seasoned it yet?
Yes, I started seasoning yesterday. And I'm going to wait the 3 days.
La-ti-da.
I'm going to wait the 3 days.
Okay.
I follow instructions.
You are a rule follower.
Yes, I am.
I'm not.
We know.
Me and you are like yi and yang.
Yin and yang.
Yin and yang. No.
He didn't make up yi. Yi. Where you from? Lubbock. Okay. You're safe with that one.
Yi.
Yi. It's close.
Yes.
Hey, man. What about McAuliffe?
So, dude, let me tell you something. I've been smoking
for years.
Well, yeah. But no, I've been smoking the Experiencia La Crema.
Oh.
Have you had one of those in a while?
Not in a long time.
Before you leave here, let me gift you one.
For real?
Because let me tell you what, dude. It's been a while since I had it. And let me tell you, it's like, like when you smoke some cigars, it's like, boom, hits you in the face. Here we go. This one, like, you're going nice and smooth, and you start climbing, and you start climbing. And then by the time you get to the second third, you're pretty far up. And then by the third, it's like, oh, shit.
We're there.
Dude, it's nice.
Yeah, I remember that. I haven't tasted one in a while.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. That's the expert. That's why we use these glasses.
This dude just knocked over his shot glass, and not a drop fell. Who does that?
Experience.
Yes, Rob. He said Rob M.F. Jones. Experience, and then Viva La Vida.
Dude, Viva La Vida is just. I mean, they're so laser focused on producing a beautiful work of art when it comes to a cigar. And what I mean by that is, I consider these guys to be very successful. I don't know if they're making money yet, but as far as a vision and a goal, these guys are spot on.
Oh, heck yeah. Because
they had this vision dream, and that's what they've created. It's a beautiful cigar. It's a complex. It's on point value-wise.
Tell the truth, man.
Every aspect of the cigar is right where, if you were going to make one blend, you want it to hit on all cylinders across the board for every vitola. And that's what they've done. You know, you see other cigar companies, it's like they come out with some good cigars and then boom, they got different line. They got more line.
Yeah.
And these guys have been
concentrated.
We are laser focused on creating a work of art as a cigar.
And they did it.
And boom.
They did it.
And every edition, Viatola-wise, has been like home run. Yeah. Like, because you love the Torpedo, you love the Figurado, and then when they came out with the Club 500, boom. You see what I mean, dude? Every Viatola, boom.
There's nothing you cannot say about that. That 500 hit the spot. It's like you said, they built on, then they said, boom, here you go. And all of the Viatolas are great. But when you get to me, I just say to me, when you get to that 500, you're like, okay, I'm in the Bugatti stage now. I've stepped up from Cadillac to the Bugatti. Man, you are not doing that. You are not doing. Put the top back on. Get you some OT.
Wow.
For those that are not Light 'em Up crew, the Light 'em Up crew will know why I'm saying this, because we've been trying to tape the beginning of this show for 6 hours.
6 hours.
I'm joking.
5.5. Tops.
Because every time it goes to, okay, we got to start
Pop top again.
Pop a top. Right. I'm like, oh my goodness, man. But, you know, Case Elegance, McAuliffe, Artisano with Viva La Vida. We got some great sponsors,
and
man.
Then you lay it all on the line because our home shop is the sponsor of the show.
Home Run Shop.
And you know, what a great relationship we've had with the Leaf throughout the years. You know what I mean? And I mean, it was like,
you got the great co-owners in Jay and Corey. And we've known Jay the longest. But Corey came in with that same attitude, that same mindset, that same type of personality.
Well, just exactly like Gomer Pyle.
Yes. You not call him Gomer Pyle. Dude, you wrong. You're wrong.
Corey shows up and he's like,
hey,
surprise,
son.
surprise,
Hey,
surprise.
Oh, man, that is so
Corey,
wrong.
you know what?
We love you, man.
There was a completely different joke that I had lined up for you, but they said that it was not appropriate for the show. So that was your "We love you, brother."
He got vetoed out.
Yeah, the other version got vetoed out. Next time you're in town, I'll share that one with you.
It's a house of 5 right now, and it was a 4-1 vote.
So anyway, yeah. So we got Corey, we got Jay,
Scott.
I mean, those are the founders, owners of the new Leaf.
Yes, that's correct.
The Leaf 3.0.
You went to 3.0 now?
Well, yeah, because Bill got it from somebody else.
Yeah, I got you now.
So, I mean, really, it is the Leaf 3.0.
Yeah.
And then if you add in the new location that basically they erected, you know, so that's erected.
No, we're not going
anyway,
there. And what is that address?
They erected at 1166 North 2nd.
Where the hell is that? He said 11. 11. Where is that?
I said 2nd.
No, you didn't. You said 11. 1166. Okay, where is that on the planet? The address is 1166.
That's what I said.
North 2nd, Abilene, Texas. 11. What? Okay. And you poured him another glass. Okay, yeah, he should have drank that tea.
Thank you, Larry.
Oh my God!
It's good to have brothers that care about you. You know what I mean?
I do care because you said 11. You just made up a damn word. 1166.
That's not the first time.
Let me
have you
something.
heard me pronounce the name of cigars?
Religiously. Weekly.
When I was talking to Steve Saka, he was talking about like when they would have conferences and guys would show up and it was like the bloggers that they wouldn't ask any questions because they wanted you to think they knew everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, Yeah, that's not us.
No word.
I was like, if you listen to us pronounce the name of cigars,
not us, Rob. you know he's from Texas because he murders words.
If it's not El Paso,
I can't do it. El Paso or Taco. Those two, I'm done.
I'm good right there.
Right there. I don't stray from either one.
So, hey man, we got a little off track because we did have like a drinking game during the pre-show,
did.
And apparently
we know who
Brian
lost.
was the loser.
No, we know who lost. It's 11-66. Hey man, I'm just gonna do my pick six.
Hey, wait a minute.
Hold up.
Let me tell you guys, you were in for a real treat.
Yeah.
Because we've got Jay Patterson, the owner, one of the owners of the Leaf, the co-owner, the co-founder of 3.1.
You just said it was 3.0.
But I changed it because they moved.
to 1166. They were originally at 1166 at 3.0. Then they moved to 11. Now they're 3.1. 11. I'm actually going to Google and see if there's even a word anywhere. Not just in the shed, anywhere.
So I came out with my own library.
Yeah, we know. we know.
But anyway, we've got a special treat for you guys because we're going to do our pick six.
Yes.
But I'm going to slip on out of here, and we're going to have Jay.
We wanted to surprise them.
Well, don't you think they would notice?
They'd have been surprised. They'd be like, wait a minute, that's not Rob. He's speaking English.
He's not from Texas.
We can tell he's not from Lubbock. And he didn't lose the game.
Whoo! Anyway.
I got you.
So what we're going to do here is Jay is going to slide into my spot. I'm going to slip out. You guys are going to do the pick six. We're going to get your favorite for 3 of the week. We're going to get...
For three. My favorite for 3. I love my producer. He said, forget it. Move on. Just get out the seat.
Just so you know, after the pick six, we'll have a one-on-one with Steve Saka.
Steve Saka. Okay, we're gonna start with my pick six tonight as usual, and my first one this week is going to be a Perdomo Lot 23, Connecticut, and then my number 2 is going to be a Roma Craft Baca Jenga.
It's going to be a rough ride.
And we see it doesn't matter if he's in the seat or not. Rob is going to be Rob. He's going to be himself no matter where he sits in the shed. So I get to my number 3, which is an archetype Axis Mundi Churchill. And now I pass it over to Jay. We wanted to surprise you with him, but as you noticed. So now we have Jay Patterson, co-owner of The Leaf. Give us your pick 6. Give us your best 3 from this week, sir.
The best 3?
Yes, sir.
To be honest with you, you were talking. I thought you were rehearsing what you're about to say.
Nah.
Okay.
You on 1166 right now?
It's 1166. All right. That's not the pre-show.
No, please don't treat it like the pre-show. Please don't.
All right. Glasses come off.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So.
That's so deep. I love this job, man. I love it.
I'll say. I got to pick 3 out of this week?
Yes, sir. 3 out of this week.
Okay. All right. Number 1.
Okay.
Or should I go number 3?
It doesn't matter.
We'll go 3-1.
I got you.
Yeah, it's a little bit of anticipation.
You got the drum roll over there, Luke, for number 1.
The hell was that?
I can do spoons.
Number 3.
Okay.
I'm going to go with the Perdomo Sun-Grown ESV.
Oh.
Rich.
Ooh.
It's got flavors that is satisfying, but it's not too light.
Yes, that's true.
And it's not a nicotine bomb.
Yes, that's true.
Very good.
It's a good ride.
Yeah. So, Perdomo ESV.
Sun-grown.
Yes. The sun.
Number 2.
Number 2. Number 2, I'm going to go with the Romacraft HS.
Oh, and you gave me one.
Yes, I gave you one. It's smooth. The flavor profiles are just, it's quite floral, but at the same time, it's not. It's weird.
Yeah.
So, Romacraft came out with their list of their releases for this year, much like microbreweries do. And so, HS was part of this German line that they were coming out with in the States.
Okay.
And it was just very smooth. That's damn good.
Gotcha. I'm going to find out.
Darn good.
Darn good. Oh, you can say damn on this show.
Okay. All right. It's good. It's very smooth. The initial flavor profile right off the foot, you get a lot of floral, you get a lot of leather. It's just rich, but it's not strong.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
And so as you develop into that second, third, it really starts developing into more of a leathery, kind of strong.
Yeah.
It's a little bit hot, but it's really good.
Yeah, I'm gonna find out, bro. I think.
And there's 3. There's the HS, the JFK. There's a third one. Like, we all have it, or we have it at the Leaf. I'm excited to try them all, but I got to be honest. The number 1 that beats out all the other 2, all the other 2, has to be. Still, it's by Definition Cigars.
Which one?
It is the Phoenix.
Yes, sir.
So the Phoenix is a double Lajero. It's a Sumatran wrapper.
Yes, sir.
It is just so rich. It's almost indescribable how good it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You light it up on the first third, you get a little bit of that spice, that pepper, and then as you smoke through it, it starts mellowing out. And so the first time I ever had one, me and Neo are sitting down on the couch, and we're smoking this cigar, and he goes, "Oh yeah, by the way, this is our 2nd anniversary cigar." I was like, "All right, cool, whatever." Yeah, the conception was awesome. The conception is what brought Definition into our humidor.
True.
And so we're smoking this the Phoenix. And as we're smoking through, it was a slow night. Nothing going on. And then, some people came in on the 12th hour. I stood up. And the knees went bloop.
Sit back down.
Right. But I couldn't, Yeah, I got to help these people.
Got to take care of my customers.
But for real, like, it's so sneaky strong. But it is so good.
Yes, it is. So that's your 3 this week.
That's my 3.
All right. So we're going to put them in the show notes, hopefully, as we usually do, sometimes a long time ago. I'm looking at Luke, and he pointing at his dad. Yes, and the connection to the shop are in the show notes. Just hit the link, and it has the phone number. And it's not 1166. You will be calling 1166 in a second. And all of these sticks, especially, everyone that we named tonight, you'll find there at the Leaf. All you got to do is get in contact, call Jay, and he'll get them to you.
We'll mail them to you.
With Bovettas in the pack.
Dude, you're like the only dude that includes Bovettas.
I got to tell you.
Right? Oh, go ahead.
A lot of folks will say, I called the shop and they sent it out and it's great experience. I would hope that every shop does something similar.
Yeah, we would hope.
We
would hope.
It's the experience.
Oh, yes.
Like you're buying cigars, but also it's the experience that you want to captivate. You want to encapsulate in your own home, your own
You want to
place.
cultivate.
Yeah. And so...
Extrapolate. Oh, no. Thank you, Jay, man.
We can edit that.
Yeah, because we got people in the background giving their notes, and we know this the two older guys. Well, the two older-minded guys, and they're saying some things. But anyway, thank you for your 3, bro.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I truly appreciate it. And right now, we're going to have the Steve.
They're really good.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And I'll tell you what.
Talk to me.
They're good.
They're good.
That's it.
We're going to have the Steve Saka interview. And after that, you're going to have Rob, and he's going to have a little sit down real quick with Jay. We'll be right back.
Thanks so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. We've wanted to get in touch with you for quite some time. We've been doing a cigar podcast now for about 2.5 years. And, of course, you're one of the all-stars in the cigar industry because not only with your history in cigars, but also the badass cigars that you make. You don't make the run-of-the-mill cigars that are trying to compete, with $7 sticks. You're focused on making the best cigars that you can, which separates you from a lot of different cigar manufacturers. I mean, a lot of guys are just competing at price point where, from what I've read, that's really not your focus.
Yeah, I don't care about price point.
Yeah.
Price point means nothing to me. But does it mean that there's a lot of consumers that will never smoke my cigars? Absolutely. It means there's a lot of consumers that will never smoke my cigars. But at the same time, it's not like they don't have thousands of other choices to smoke in their preferred price point. So it's not like I'm, you know what I mean? And I don't smoke those type of cigars any longer. I very rarely smoke a cigar below the price point that I make, that I personally would buy. And I'm just not worried about market share.
Yeah.
So that makes things very different when you're not like going, okay, how do I gain more of this, more of that? And look, I'm not being naive. I'm in the cigar business. I want to sell cigars. So don't take it that way. But it's just, I know what I like to do. I know what I'm good at doing. And I know how competitive the other is. And without owning the factory and the fields, it's really impossible to be competitive in that segment. And it's particularly impossibly competitive in that segment when you have no brand identity either. You know what I mean? I feel bad for a lot of these smaller guys because they just don't really, they don't grasp the business end of their chosen business.
Yeah, I see that all the time. I see some up-and-coming cigars that, I hate to be this way, but it's like I already know they're not going to make it.
And even ones that you think are going to make it, they typically stall, in that between 4 and 7 years. They find themselves hitting a wall. They don't really quite know what to do. They kind of start getting into this scenario where they start churning and burning product because that's how they end up making the cash flow they need to survive. And I don't blame them. I understand. They're in a pickle. They haven't really established any sort of significant consumer base. They haven't really created a brand that has the potential of, sustaining them long term. It's they find themselves in a really, really difficult spot because the problem with being that small little boutique-y, crafty, whatever you want to call it, is there will always be somebody else. There will always be a newer girl that's got a prettier butt than yours that the cigar geeks will eventually flock to. And so you never can hold on to that buzz factor, staying in that small pool. You have to make things that can go beyond the geek blogger, you know, whatever little army of fans you can build in your Facebook group. You know, it's got to be more than that. And that's something that very few people have the capacity to do long term. And then they have the other challenge. It's always very difficult when you're getting cigars job for you to get them made consistently. You know, you don't really have control over the factory. Very few really are involved in any sort of the tobacco sorting, selection, and much less the purchasing of the materials they need. And so they're always a little bit at the whim, well, not a little bit, they're a lot at the whim of their manufacturing partners who aren't treating them badly. But at the same time, you got to look at it from the perspective of, okay, I run a big major factory. I'm making 100,000 handmade cigars a day. And I've got this customer over here and he's got this, you know, it's a buzzy brand right now and people really like it. But in the end, what's he buying? He's buying 40,000 cigars a year, 50,000 cigars a year.
Right.
Well, I'm making 100,000 cigars a day.
Right.
So this guy's basically sucking up 4 hours of my production in a course of a year for his small brand. What are you really going to do for that customer? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, what value is it to the factory as well? Because if it's 4 hours of my time in a year and you're a hit wonder today and you're gone tomorrow, as a manufacturer, I really don't care.
Right. The thing is, as a manufacturer, you like to have it because you have someone that's advertising your factory. You like to have it because it is cigars that you've made that you don't have to worry about selling. So that part's good. And I'm not saying that you get treated poorly, but it's also that factory is not going to make the investment necessary in the tobacco that you need if your brand grows 2, 3, 4, 5 years into the future. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, they basically got 4 hours of labor out of it in the course of an entire year for them. And you think about all the time it takes to just do the packaging and the interfacing and the samples back and forth. It's a lot. And that's why most factories don't really do a lot of it. They've really cut back, but there's still some that do. And they see the value in it. And look, it was something that when I was in charge of Drew Estate, we did very little of. I mean, we did, while I was there, we did products for Rocky, but Rocky was selling a lot of cigars. It was a reasonable production that, you know, you're like, okay, yes, if you're making so many of these a year, then yes, there's a reason why you want to be invested in a bigger way.
Right.
But you know, when you're doing the small end stuff, you just can't ask the factory nor expect the factory, regardless of what they say to you, that they're going to make the commitment necessary for them to make brand XYZ in year 1 taste the same in year 4 and 5. The only way that they can do that is if you're making cigars out of the materials that the factory readily has available and uses for its other lines on a regular basis. But then you run into the problem of, well, then you make a cigar at that factory and then it tastes like so many of the other cigars that they make at that factory, that then what is the unique flavor smoking experience proposition to the consumer? Because that factory probably has a brand that's not identical per se, maybe, but let's say it isn't, but near identical. And they're probably selling it for less money because you're the middleman, you know,
right,
between the factory operation and the retailer. So you've added another step in the value chain. So the guys that are actually in that middle part, they actually make less money, even though their cigars cost more. You know, so not only do they not have the brand recognition, not only do they have the consistency challenge, but they also have the fact that they're underfunded compared to everybody else around them. All those guys have more cash. They're actually making more money on those cigars, even though they sell for less money. So it becomes a really, really hard thing to break out and I hate to be this way because I don't want to discourage people from getting the cigar business, because there are success stories.
But
right?
A good dose of reality is always a good thing, too.
Mean, Drew Estate's a success story. Rocky Patel's a success story. Alan Rubin and Alec Bradley's a success story. I mean, they're there. But I think what people don't understand is for every one of those, there's at least 100 that fail. And it's probably closer to about 300 that failed, actually.
And do you think it's getting harder and harder as we go because the market is so saturated with good cigars? How do you get your name out there if you're brand new? I mean, I'm glad I'm not in the cigar business. I can tell you that.
Well, you know, and the hardest part that a lot of them don't quite get is selling to retailer really doesn't mean anything. I mean, the retailer is my direct customer, but ultimately the retailer doesn't really care what they have on their shelves. All the retailers care about is, do their customers buy it, right? So, I mean, so retailers buy product either because it's turning, or sometimes they'll buy stuff because the discount's so good that the margin's so much better when they sell it that they're willing to do the extra lift that's required to sell it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they can sit on a little bit longer because when they do sell it, their profit ratio is higher.
Right. But the thing is, again, when you're the small guy and you're actually making less money than the big guys, you actually can't give that retailer the discounts that he gets from the big guys.
Yeah, you're making nothing.
You're making nothing. So for you, the costs are much higher. And then also you have just there's a certain amount of just inherent costs that are almost fixed that you have to pay just to operate a company, even a small one, that's unavoidable. And again, as a proportion against what you're selling, is significantly higher than the bigger guys. So there are so many challenges. And that's not even getting into, you don't know much about intellectual property law. You don't really understand the FDA regulations. You don't understand how the distribution and the wholesale game work. You don't understand how the programs work with the big guys and how to do business with the big guys and how to not do business with the big guys. I mean, there's a lot of things at play that make it really, really challenging for the small brand owner. And on top of that, your cigar has to be exceptionally great, because that's the only thing that you actually can compete on is exceptional cigars. You can't compete on the marketing. You can't compete on the branding. You can't compete on the sales force. You can't compete on the factory efficiencies. You can't compete in tobacco consistencies. You know what I mean? There's so little there where you can actually go head to head. The only place that you can really truly go head to head is if you're making super top end stuff.
And then that also goes back to, you don't own the factory, so you don't always control the quality of your cigars. So,
well, I'll tell you how you can control the quality of your cigars. Part of the problem is universally people always want things for the least amount of money. But if you are willing to pay the factory for what you want, they're willing to do it. But the problem is, you have to know enough about what they do in order to hold them responsible for what they're supposed to do. And that's the other challenge that most small people have, is they don't actually have any real tobacco experience, and they don't have any actual real factory experience. So for them, the way they decide whether the factory is doing the right thing or the wrong thing is just simply by, oh, I get a cigar out of the box and, oh, it didn't taste right, or, oh, it didn't draw right, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're really just playing the role that the consumer plays, essentially, right? And how are you going to tell people in Nicaragua what they're doing wrong if you have no clue what they're actually really doing and why they're really doing what they're doing?
Right.
So that's a real challenge also. And the other dilemma that you have is, look, again, you have to go. I mean, up until the COVID year, I was there every month. I mean, you got to be there. You got to see things and touch things and complain about things in person and, this nonsense of WhatsApp and Zoom and emails and telephone calls, yeah, it works to a degree, but it's not the same as me just sitting there and throwing a hissy fit in front of everybody and showing them why I'm unhappy and explaining to them what they're doing wrong. And, boom, 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 having that personal one-on-one interaction has tremendous value.
And the amount of time that it takes trying to do it from over here is not even conducive to being productive. When you're there, I mean, you pick up a cigar and say, hey, this is not working for me. Then this is why it's not working. But if you're in New Jersey or New Hampshire or New York, that's not going to work.
It doesn't work as well. But again, and the other thing too is, even if you don't know, you'll never learn if you don't go. So the more time you spend in a factory, the more time you spend in a pre-industry, the more time you spend at a curing barn, the more time you spend at a farm, the more you're going to learn. And the more time you spend talking to people that know more than you know about something, the better you're going to be. So like when I'm sitting with consumers, I'm holding court. But I like to stay at Gustavo Cura's house. Gustavo Cura is a personal friend of mine. He is the manager of Prosa Nixa for the Oliva Tobacco Company, not the Oliva Cigar Company. Gus is one of my long-term friends. Gus sells tobacco to everybody. He sells to Puente, he sells to, well, I don't know if he sells to Patron, but he sells to pretty much like almost everybody. Pepin, Abdel, Altadis, General, all the tobacco men, all the buyers, they eventually end up at Gus's house.
Oh, wow.
So what's really good about that for me is it gives me the ability to participate in those conversations after work. And I learn a lot in those conversations. Sometimes I learn by asking. Sometimes I learn by just shutting up and listening. So, there's a tremendous value in that. And the other thing, too, that a lot of people, particularly on my side of the fence, they're fearful to ask questions because they want to appear as though they're experts. But the reality is you're never going to be as much of an expert as the guy that does this,
for
5 days a week, for the last 20 years. So therefore, why wouldn't you ask questions? Okay. The expectation that you're putting on yourself is not the expectation they have for you, right? So you might as well, while you're there, instead of spending your time hanging out at Los Arcos and drinking beers at the end of the night, or hanging out at Darren's place, which, by the way, Darren's got a great place, love the restaurant. But I'm saying you need to use that time in a way that you're going to get a benefit and education out of it. And the more you do that, the wiser you personally will become. I mean, look, everybody's seen draw testers. We all know what a draw tester does. But how many people have actually ever touched one? How many people have actually calibrated one? How many people have actually cleaned one? How many people have actually sat there and just use one for a couple hours? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just sit there and actually use the damn thing the way the guy that sits there all day uses it. Now, are you going to be as proficient as the guy that uses it every day? Absolutely not. But just the hands-on experience of using it yourself physically, rather than walking by and saying, oh, this is how we draw, this is where we draw test all the bunches. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're not going to have that experience if you spend a month there, but you at least understand how it works to some degree.
And look, I've been going to Nicaragua since the end of 93. So I've been going a very, very long time. And I've spent cumulatively over the last 3 decades, about 7 years total time in a tobacco-oriented setting, whether it be a farm, whether it be a curing facilities, whether it be mulling, whether it be pre-industry, whether it be factory floor, whether it even just be in the conference room, which I have to admit, I did more conference room stuff, more and more, because as things are more on autopilot, as we have all the kinks worked out, it doesn't really require much more than a cursory examination of a lot of things. You know what I mean? Once you get things rolling in the way they're supposed to be. But at the same time, you do have to make an effort. And you do have to open yourself up to just saying, hey, I don't know this. And I think that's one of the things that people just, as humans, we have a difficult time dealing with. There's a difference. Ignorance is not the same thing as stupidity. It's okay to be ignorant. Ignorant just means you don't know. You haven't learned. You haven't been told. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm ignorant of something.
Making the appearance that I do know is actually stupidity.
And look, and I can tell you, so like when we would do cigar safari tours, right? The worst groups every single time were always the bloggers. Universally, they were the worst group for cigar safari. And why? Because you would think that these would be the guys that, as a general rule of thumb, would want to ask the most questions, but they don't want to look like they don't know the answers in front of everybody else. So they very rarely ask very many questions at all.
See, we are kind of like the opposite of that. We are the everyday guys that love smoking cigars. We can't even pronounce most of the cigars that you make.
You're not alone. Look,
we attempt it and we butcher the hell out of it. But
Vaughn in my office, it took her forever to figure out how to even pronounce sobremesa. So it took a while. You know, sobremesa and mi querida. Yeah, look, it can be. I understand it, but you know what? It doesn't even matter how simple the name is. Consumers are still going to mispronounce it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I still hear CAO called Cal. Right? I still hear Padron called Patron, like the tequila. You know what I mean? So even sometimes the simplest of names become unpronounceable. But you know, look, and part of the challenge with the names, and I just recently ran into this, is it's just hard coming up with names because you got so many things you have to worry about now. You have to worry about, well, first off, is the trademark available? Which used to be much easier because it used to be the chew, the snuff, the cigarette guys, and the cigar guys. And honestly, the chew, snuff, and cigarette guys, they didn't make a lot of brands. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they were much bigger operations. They would make a brand. They'd focus on it. I mean, I don't even know how many SKUs Altria has in their cigarette line, but I would be blown away if there's 50. Okay? I really would be blown away. I doubt that there is, but I could be wrong about that. But the point is, in the cigar market, we're making new crap all the time. So we were churning up names constantly, burning through them. And now, you now have the accessory guys registering trademarks. You have the CBD guys in that same international class registering trademarks. You have the vape guys. You have the e-cig guys. You have all the people that make the accessories for all of those products, plus the weed, too.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody is dumping into that one international class. And so you now have all those other industries, they're like us. They're generating new stuff all the time. So you have a ton of names that just get sucked up constantly. I mean, it's very hard to come up with anything that hasn't been used in some way, in some form or fashion. Right. There isn't some sort of intellectual property battle. Okay. Then on top of that, you now have to worry about the word has to be clear in English, Spanish, French, and Italian. Because now they check in all 4 languages for a word, which
no
they
way
used to do. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, sometimes it depends on the word whether they'll let you do it or not do it. But you're always at the mercy of the examining attorney on the USPTO. In addition to whether it's been registered or not, it still doesn't mean that it's free to use. Because if somebody else has already used that name, which look, a lot of these small guys, they don't even register these names, these vape guys, and even in our business, cigar guys, they don't register names. It costs too much. It's too much work for them, right? But if they've used it, they've got position on you as, you know, first in the market. Okay, they've actually got sales against them. Maybe they only sold 100 boxes over 3 years, but it doesn't matter that they sold 100 boxes in 3 years. They sold 100 boxes. So you also got to make sure that it's free there. So you got to do extensive web searches to make sure.
Yeah, I actually just read an article about a name from Aganorsa Leaf.
Yeah, Agranosa is having a beef with Mombacho.
Yes.
Yeah, look, it's not my job to comment on other people's intellectual property issues, but yeah, let me not comment on it. I'll leave it alone. I'll let Agrinosa and Mombacho deal with their own nonsense. I got my own problems.
Right, don't we all?
And then you also have to consider now in this modern age, can I get the domain name? Because ideally, that if you're going to make a brand and you want it to be around long term, and somebody types in sobermesa.com, you want it to go to something that you own. Well, you know how hard that is. I mean, people have been squatting on domain names since the late 90s, early 2000s. So unless you're making something totally up out of thin air, and even when you make shit up out of thin air, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, you're not the first one to make it up out of thin air.
Right, because, I mean, what's that, 1,000 monkeys and 1,000 typewriters? Give it enough time, eventually one of them is going to do Shakespeare. And it's the same thing with this. I mean, you got literally millions of people coming up with domain names to register and to park. So it's really, and then that doesn't even get into, does the name make sense? Does it sound good? Does it relate to the product? There's a lot. And so what ends up happening for a lot of companies, and this is true even with the large companies, sometimes the branding is a lot weaker than they wish it would be. You know what I mean? And part of it is, well, there just isn't a whole lot out there, that's available that hasn't been taken. And it's really difficult to come up with something that has the potential. And again, it's just potential. There's no guarantees. So, but it's a challenge. And I think it's hard for the large companies, and I know it's difficult for the large companies because being a large company in the past, I had that experience at JR and I had that experience also at Drew. But as a small guy, it's way even more difficult for them, And sometimes even when things are free and clear, I just had a trademark issue. I had a brand that I'm launching this year. I was sure it was free and clear, and it was, but it turned out that someone submitted an application 2 days before mine.
Oh, man.
And there was no way. It's a vape company out of Korea. You know what I mean? And there's no way that because it takes about 30 or 45 days minimum for a trademark application to post on the TESS. And boy, we are really into the weeds when we're talking about this crap. I don't know if anybody that watches is going to care. But I already had bands being printed. I already had boxes being designed. I was so sure it was good to then find out that, oh my God, somebody actually put in for part of the same name just 2 days before me. And there was no way I could have ever known that. There's two ships crossing. Like, had I put mine in 2 days before they put theirs in,
right,
that they would be the one with the problem. Well, now I'm the one with the problem. And look, and I bought the website domain. I paid $8,000 for it because it wasn't available. So I got $8K there. I got about $7K in plates, embossing and cutting dies. I've got the fact that everything had to be reworked graphically and all that stuff. I'm probably just out of pocket, easily $20K.
Wow.
Just because some guy submitted an application 2 days before mine. That's the type of financial hit that a small guy cannot absorb.
Yeah, because you got to sell a ton of cigars to make up that 20 grand.
You got to sell a lot to make $20,000. Yes. For most small companies, to make $20,000 actual in profit, they would probably actually have to sell somewhere around $240,000 to $280,000 worth of cigars.
Wow.
To have a whole, and actually, in my case, I'd have to sell more. But that has part to do with just the way my company is structured and set up. There's kind of a minimum break-even point. Because I have a real office. I have a real staff. I have real warehouse. I have real systems. I mean, I started the company with the intent of, I don't have any dreams of becoming massive, but I also want to be very professional. And I also think that there's a nice kind of middle road eventually where Dumbarton will eventually land. So from day one, I structured the company in a way and set it up with that in mind, And
so, how do you plan the future of Dumbarton Tobacco? I mean, you're 55. You're not 20 years old.
Right.
What's the long-term plan for Dumbarton Tobacco? What's that?
There's none. There's none.
There's none. You don't have like family members that are younger that are interested?
Look, my eldest son works in the business, but ultimately, I mean, we don't know where this FDA stuff is still heading.
Sure.
I mean, will there be a business for him to even, eventually take over? I don't know. I mean, I'm much more focused on the product than I am on the company part.
Gotcha.
Even though I'm talking all company part than product part right now. For me, I got to understand the company part. Look, I'm not Altadis, I'm not Swisher, I'm not Dabo. I don't have an MBA. They have people that, from a corporate point of view, could run circles around. But in that tier below that, I'm pretty there. You know what I mean? So there isn't a lot that can upset me. And I would even make the argument that maybe some of the larger companies, they would do a little bit better to stop talking about circles of excellence and, business enterprise and, intrinsic sales connections. But hey, it's their companies. They can do whatever the hell they want with the damn things.
Right. I'd like to ask you, well, first, let's go back. Where did you grow up, Steve?
Well, I was born in New York State, Western New York. And then my family moved to Texas when I was 9.
What part?
Just north of Houston, a little town. Well, not a little town anymore, but it used to be little. It's called Humble.
Oh, yeah.
Humble was a high school. Humble was a Dairy Queen. Humble was a bank. Humble was a church, 2 churches, 3 churches, 4 churches.
I used to live about 20 miles north of Humble.
Where? Like Conroe or something?
I lived just north of Conroe.
Okay. Yeah. So I lived in Humble when Humble was nothing, but now Humble's been absorbed by Houston. It's actually not part of Houston. It's
Houston now all the way up to Huntsville.
Yeah. I mean, and then my family moved to Kingwood, and then I graduated out of Kingwood, and then I enlisted in the Navy when I was 17, spent 6 years in the service. I returned back to Texas, but I was only in Texas for like 3-4 years. And at that point, I then moved up to New Hampshire.
So how did you make that choice to go from Texas to New Hampshire?
Because it's just too sweaty hot in Texas. I couldn't take it, man. As a fat dude, it was killing me. And
that's why I live in West Texas now, because it's not humid.
Right. I mean, and that's the thing most people don't realize. I mean, Houston's a swamp.
Oh, it's bad.
Houston's essentially an extension of the bayou for all practical purposes, just without most of the alligators. Right. But it really is weather-wise. It's pretty crappy weather. And I mean, for me, my favorite Texas weather, it's probably that whole hill country area, I think.
Yeah, that's about 2 hours south of me.
Yeah, I like that area of Texas. I mean, if I had to go back, the problem is it's not a practical. Well, it's getting more practical now that Austin and San Antonio are kind of growing together. You know what I mean? I mean, there used to be like 90 miles between San Antonio and Austin. I think now
there's 6.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think there's more than a dozen.
There's not much.
I mean, on that whole corridor, they built everything up, right? I mean, it's restaurants.
You're never in the country anymore.
Right, where before it used to be an hour and a half country drive between the two. Right. And that's not the case anymore. But hey, so that's where I grew up. But when I was enlisted, I was stationed on an old Knox class frigate, FF-1056, the USS Canoe, and it was stationed out of Rhode Island.
Oh, okay. What'd you do in the Navy? Just out of curiosity.
I was a Twidget. I was ET2. Second class petty officer.
And what was the duties of that position?
Electronic technician. I worked on communication and radar equipment.
Okay.
But I was on such a small boat. If it was electronic, you helped the sonar guys, you helped the fire technicians, you helped anybody that had anything electronic. You helped the guy whose portable cassette player wasn't working right. You know what I mean? You pretty much fixed anything. Coffee makers typically went to the EMs. They would fix those, electricians' mates. But anything that had electronic circuitry in it, you ended up working on. So we had lived in New England, and my wife's from Eastern Pennsylvania, and we liked New England. I still like New England, even though the winters can be a little brutal. I like it up here. So when I sold the company in Texas, we then decided to relocate, and we decided to move back north. And we ended up moving to New Hampshire because it's, live free or die.
Right.
No income tax, no state sales tax. Pretty much your entire government's run by your local town. You don't have much of a state government influence. So it's kind of a nice way to live, particularly in today's times.
Yeah, especially up in the Northeast.
Yeah, particularly in the Northeast. Yeah. So yeah, other than my stint at Drew Estate where I moved to Miami. I moved to Miami from 2005 to, I guess like February of 2013. So almost 8 years I was in Miami.
And how'd you like it down there?
Hated it. It sucks. I'm sorry.
Was it humid over there too?
Oh, it's miserable. It's miserably hot. It's miserably humid. Everybody there is plastic fantastic. Everybody's superficial. Look, I'm being stereotypical here.
Sure.
Obviously, there's great people in Miami. But Miami, I think, if you didn't grow up in Miami, I think it's a very difficult city to live in. It's very expensive. And it's one of those cities where you kind of got to know someone. Everything's a little shady. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, exactly.
Everything's a little shady. Everything is meant to be a negotiation. Everything, it's hard. It's a difficult environment. And, and if you don't speak Spanish, it becomes an increasingly difficult environment, because, I don't know what the stats are now, but I remember the previous census, they were saying like 50% of the people spoke basically no English, yeah, yes, no, fuck you, hello, that kind of English. But, so I think it's a challenging place. I think Miami is the type of place that you want to go on vacation for a week or two, but I don't think it's the place that you actually want to live.
I've actually never been to Florida. I've never been further than Mississippi to Chicago on the East Coast. I've been everywhere on the West Coast, and I just never made it over there. I've always wanted to make it to Florida, though, just because it's, the headquarters of Cigar City and all that type.
Yeah. Like I said, go on vacation. Great place to go on vacation. Look, there are other places in Florida that I think are nicer. But look, I think it's always relative, right? If you're a young, fit party goer, you want that nightlife, then Miami's a great city.
Yeah, I'm not young, I'm not fit, and I'm not a big partier.
Right. So that for that, Miami's great. If you're a fashion model, Miami's a great place to be, right? If you're a banker from Central or South America, great place to be. It's the hub of all money coming from, South America, Latin America, and Central America, all flows. Much of it, a lot of it flows through there, between there and Panama, but even the Panamanian business eventually flows through Miami.
Oh, wow.
So it just depends on what it is, but I think that I just don't find it a particularly good city to live in.
It's not a good fit for you.
Yeah, it just didn't. Look, we moved a bunch of times. I remember one time we moved to one of those fancy penthouse apartments it was on Brickell Key, which is a little private island they have there. Super swanky. I was the only guy on the floor with a wife over the age of 30. You know what I mean? Right. Everybody was like 55 to 65, and they all had these like 28-year-old women. And look, I'm not knocking it. Do what you want, dude. Personally, I don't want it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't need a girl in my life, but hey, but that's just the way it was. So it's kind of hard. You got this dude, he's 62 and he's got a baby. You know what I mean? He's burping a 4-month-old. I'm like, man, that sucks.
It's kind of a weird environment to be in if you're not in that environment. You know what I mean? If that's not the environment if you're not participating, it's kind of weird.
To see when you look, I grew up in deep East Texas, so that's about as rednecky as you can get, right?
Right.
And then I was an enlisted squid, and I'm a fat bastard. And, and then New England, and New England's very straightforward, So, yeah, Miami was not probably a good environment for me.
So let me ask you this, Steve. How old were you when you had your first cigar?
So my first cigar was, I think it was a Swisher Sweet, and I was probably 16.
Okay.
And it was literally down by the river with two of my friends, and one of them managed to get the 7-Eleven to sell us a 6-pack, a beer. And if I remember right, I think it was Lone Star, but I can't quite recall. And we had a 5-pack of Swisher Sweets. My first real cigar was it wasn't probably. It would have been when I was 19 and in the Navy.
Okay.
It's when I first got attached to my ship. So that would have been, I would have been 19 years old when I got attached to Canola. So that was the first time I smoked a handmade cigar. It wasn't a premium cigar, but it was a handmade cigar.
Right.
So, and then that's kind of where it all started, from about the age of 19.
Well, I mean, you said you had your first cigar at 16. You were almost grown at 16 because you joined the Navy at 17.
I don't know that. I don't think that the bulk of the country agrees with that sentiment anymore, right?
Well, that's true. That's true.
You gotta be 21 to do everything.
Times have changed, and I can't say for the better.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you on that page, but again, what can we do about it? Right?
I don't think we can do anything about it. I think our time
like you're yelling into the wind. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So I've kind of something that most people don't know about me is I'm actually quite political, but I don't have those conversations in social media. I don't do it in interviews. It's really nobody's fucking business what I think, and I don't put my thing on anyone else. But I do. It is disturbing where we've been heading. It just is.
Absolutely,
and I don't think it's good for anybody.
No,
I don't think. I don't even think it matters which side of the aisle you're on. I don't think that the path we're on right now is really good.
No, I don't see. It's like the ship is heading for a drawbridge that's in the down position, and there's no stopping it.
It feels that way, but part of my solution to that is to really just start tuning out everything.
I was going to say my solution is to increase throttle speed.
Really?
Just let happen what happened, because we don't get political on our show, but one of the things that I am always talking about is cancel culture.
Yeah, but see, I don't look at cancel culture as being a political divide. I mean, I know that one political party has used it more than another political party, but you also see it going back the other way too.
Oh, now. Both ways, right. And so I think it's dangerous.
The whole concept of it's just really bad. And the other thing I just don't understand is, if you don't like something, just turn it off. Don't listen to it. Don't buy that guy's product. You don't have to. It's not like you're obligated to buy something. I mean, if you don't like whatever, just pick any company. I'm just up top of my head. Reebok is doing. Well, don't buy a pair of damn Reeboks.
Right.
Just be that simple, man.
That's the way we used to.
If you're the one that controls the wallet in your house, don't buy your kids any Reeboks either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, but the whole thing is crazy, And again, it's part of the whole social media thing.
Right.
You don't really ever have many serious conversations in social media.
No, I agree. I agree. I mean,
there's serious conversations, but you're not having a dialogue. It's not the same as sitting with somebody. I find that when people are together, they are nowhere near as bombastic as they are when they're behind their keyboards.
Oh, absolutely. And they are more of who they are. You
are they more of who they are when they're on their keyboards?
Right.
I don't know. I honestly don't. But it has, look, it's creeped into everything, but it's really creeped into cigars. And part of that is because we're in a social business. Part of what we do is a lot of interrelationship. You know what I mean? So, I mean, look, how many guys love beer, but do you actually know who the distiller is of your particular beer?
Right.
I mean, do you know what that guy had for breakfast? Do you know where he went on vacation? Do you know what new watch he bought? Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
you know
absolutely.
His flight was delayed.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's crazy the amount of information that you now know about people in the cigar business. And sometimes when you get to know people, you like them even less. They're almost better as an ideal. Look, I had the same situation. I rubbed some people the wrong way, and it hurts me. Now, you could decide to try to not rub anyone the wrong way, but that's a recipe for disaster because you can't live like that. That's a physical impossibility.
I rub a lot of people the wrong way, Steve.
Look, it happens. It's just the way it is. So, and particularly when you start getting into anything political, anything race related, oddly enough, religion hasn't been as big a issue lately. You know, it's not like when I was a kid, it was kind of like, okay, don't talk politics, don't talk religion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think most of the religion part's just been kind of put back on the back burner for now. You know what I mean? Politics are front and center. And I'll say this, since COVID started a year and a couple of months ago, stepping back and watching social media, I've seen more tensions on social media in the last 14 months than I've ever seen before.
Yeah, but we had you had an election year. We had a bombastic candidate on one side that alienated a lot of people. You have a 24/7 media that really doesn't do its populace much service in any way whatsoever.
No,
I mean, essentially is just it's a click for pay scenario, a watch for ads kind of thing. So what's actually in the best interest of the country is not in the best interest of media in any way whatsoever. It's completely disconnected. And that's the problem. I don't know. Eventually what has to happen is enough people just have to say enough. I've had it. I'm over with it. I'm not buying into this anymore.
Right.
I mean, but again, we're going down a road I don't want to go down. Can we talk tobacco or cigars or something?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's.
You're just gonna get me in trouble here, Rob, and I don't want.
I do that.
No,
sometimes.
I don't need to add any more grief to this week already.
So, what's going on in the next, say, 6 weeks to 3 months for Dunbar Tobacco?
So for me, it's mostly. So we have 2 trade shows. We have TPE, which I depart for tomorrow. Dave Lafferty, my VP of Sales, is already there today. So I'll be in Vegas for TPE, and then I will be in Vegas again in mid-July for the PCA trade show. So it's working towards those shows. However, we're not really we'd like to have new products. We're not going to have any new products at TPE. It's physically impossible. We may display some new things at PCA. I'm not positive yet. Not all the kinks are ironed out. Most of my problems are actually not cigar. In that case, it's actually packaging, because the packaging guys, the box makers, the band makers, the powder guys, and the ink guys are just all behind on everything. And it's kind of a backlog of COVID shutdowns, and then a combination of the fact that we're kind of in a bit of a cigar boom. So I have those 2 trade shows to focus on. I have to focus on trying to get these new products buttoned up to the way I want them to be, whether I show them at PCA or whether they get released at the end of the year or even into next year. The work still needs to be done. And then the other thing that has to happen is I just have to get back ahead of production, because the sales have been dramatically outstripping our production planning pretty much since last May. So we have been perpetually kind of in this awkward back order situation. And it's not one that's for us, it isn't as painful for others because we're making everything all the time. So there's cigars coming in every month, and the cigars coming in have been increasing in volume. It's just the volume that we're currently producing is still not enough to satisfy the current demands. And that's the current demands without us really being aggressive. Like, we're doing the TPE trade show. We're really doing the TPA trade show just to be part of the cigar industry and to see the few customers that may come. And look, I already paid for the booth back last year. But we're not even doing any discounts or any deals. There's no incentive for the retailer to buy our cigars at TPE other than the fact that they're selling really well in their shop and therefore they need to reorder. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I haven't even decided if we're doing discounts at PCA yet. I mean, can't discount what you don't have.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's kind of one of those scenarios. And if I have orders for thousands upon thousands of boxes, why, and I'm already behind on that, why do I want to even generate more orders at a discount? You know, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, and that leads me to one more question I've got for you is my local brick and mortar shop wanted me to ask you, in the foreseeable future, when do you see expanding into more new brick and mortars?
We have slowly started opening a few new shops here and there.
Okay.
You know, as the inventory allots, we've been doing it. It's just a question of, you know, are they in the queue? Have they expressed an interest? Because we don't do a lot of outreach at this point. Pretty much, we kind of particularly the last year and a half, and it's not even really true. It's really been longer than that. So we had an amazing 2019, and we had a really great 2020 until March and April. March and April really sucked for us. They were terrible. But then when May came, we were just back to where we were doing in 2019 and growing. So, I mean, we've pretty much grown. One year is like 90%. Another year was like 60%. I think this year we're already up like 70%.
Wow.
Year to date. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's a lot. And the truth is, we could actually be even more up. But I also have to dial it back to make sure that the product is right, because what good are the sales if people are getting cigars that turn them off?
Right.
You know, you don't want to you don't want to over squeeze the goose. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I do.
So you got to be practical about that. But other than that, so that's really my primary focus. Get through these trade shows, button up the stuff that I'm supposed to have had done by the trade show, which I unlikely will have done by the trade show, and to get our production to the point where we're back ahead of schedule. Because I'm a big inventory guy. I believe in inventory. I like having inventory. It gives the cigars more time to rest in the warehouse. It takes a lot of the stress out of the supply chain. And, I was always pretty much sitting in a position where I had somewhere available to me about 4 months of finished good inventory. And now I don't even have 30 days.
Wow.
To finish the inventory. Yeah, stuff comes in the door and it goes out the door. It comes in the door, it goes out the door. So we don't do a lot of outbound calls because most of the stuff has already got other people who have committed to it, which means we're probably losing out on a lot of sales. Look, there's a lot of stores we're not in, a lot. Now, we happen to be in a lot of the very best stores, but we're growing with almost all of them significantly. And they have just a large customer base. And so, but the truth is we are opening new accounts here and there.
Okay. Well, I'll pass on that information. And, like, your cigars are not here at my home shop. There's only one shop in Abilene, Texas. But just about an hour away is the Train Car Cigar Bar with old Brent.
Yeah, he carries my products.
Yeah, he carries your products. And, I remember whenever you came out the Unicorn, he had a big party, and 90% of the people who bought the Unicorns came up there and smoked them together.
That's cool. That's good to hear. I like to hear people smoking the damn things rather than just sticking them on a shelf somewhere.
We don't save cigars. We smoke them.
No, I'm the same way. I came to that realization. I don't know. It was like 20 years ago. Was it like 20 years ago? It's been a while. Because here's the thing. Odds are I'm going to die before my wife. Odds are really high that I'm going to die before my wife. So, and she's still pretty. So my wife's going to get remarried, or she's going to have a boy toy or something. So that means there's going to be some dude banging my wife in the future. So why am I going to leave him all the good cigars and good whiskey?
Right.
You know what I mean? I can fucking control that part. I can't control the other part. But that part I can control. Why do I got to leave this guy all this great stuff?
All the good stuff, right. He's already got your wife.
Right.
Don't leave him the other stuff.
So I don't covet anything.
Yeah, same here. When I buy high-end sticks, the longest they've
I might set them aside and save them for a special day or an occasion or something like that. That I understand. But the guys that buy stuff to put in their humidor or to look at for the next 8 years, I don't get that at all. That just doesn't.
No,
that doesn't make any sense. Look at the changing light is the way the natural sun has come through the window. So I'm going to kind of go up and down.
Nice. I like it. Hey, so it's funny that we talk about that because my co-host in his humidor, he puts all his special cigars at the bottom. And
right.
But here's the bad part of that. Like mine, I just put them all in there and smoke whatever I want, which
right.
means when I want to smoke something really good, I smoke something really good. And when I want to smoke an everyday cigar, I smoke every day. But what happens when you put all your best cigars at the bottom is when you run out, you're forced to smoke all those great cigars when you're not quite ready to smoke.
Well, that's a simple solution. Just never run out, right?
Right.
Buy more damn cigars. Yeah. Again, but look, it's like everything. There's a whole group of consumers that are just into collecting, right? I'm not a collector. I don't collect anything. Okay. But there's tons of folks that collect all sorts of stuff. And so therefore, it doesn't surprise me. There's people that are into collecting cigars.
Oh,
right?
sure.
I mean, people collect knives. People collect,
people collect
fishing tackle.
everything.
People collect baseball cards. People collect all sorts of stuff, So, and in the end, look, it's your money. So do what you want with it, But me personally, I'm not a collector. Not that I haven't been a collector. I have in the past with cigars. I kind of got out of that phase. Like I said, about 20 years ago, it was right around 2000, 2001. I kind of like.
And what were you collecting back then?
It was mostly high-end Habanos, all the uber rare Cuban cigars was most of what I was actually harboring at that time. There wasn't a whole lot of, other than Fuente that was making some like really unique specialty kind of items. There weren't a lot of companies that in the domestic or in the U.S. market that were really making that kind of style of product. So most all my stuff was like uber rare Habanos. In fact, I was in Nicaragua. One of the guys I ran into was David, who owns the Habanos distribution in Mexico. And we were just talking about cigars because him and I knew one another from way back when. I actually went to one or two of his events. But anyways, we were talking about the cigars that had I not smoked them, had kept them, that would be like literally worth $200,000 and $300,000.
No way.
Yeah, that he could sell now, tomorrow, in a blink of an eye.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And I'm kind of like, yeah, I smoked them. Wow. Why'd you smoke them? And I'm like, well, isn't that the purpose of them?
Right.
I know, but yeah. But I'm still a consumer at heart. So
I think that's one of the things that the cigar community loves about you is you are a cigar consumer. You're a cigar smoker. You hang out and you smoke cigars, and that's what we do, you know? So, I mean, that's one of the...
When I go to an event, I don't look at my watch or look at my phone and spend my time, you know. I don't look, I'm supposed to be here 2 hours, and the 2 hours are up, and I'm like, okay, gotta go. You know, I try to always... I typically am last man out or near the last man out at most occasions. And the truth is, I like hanging out with cigar smokers.
Yeah, that's what I
like
love.
talking shit.
Yeah,
you know, so it's that's kind of a unique. Like, I'm way more jaded today than I was then. There's some stuff I wish I didn't know. I would be happier to have not known it. But I haven't become completely jaded. I still really enjoy cigars and cigar people and the whole experience. And you are right, Rob. I think that is one of the reasons why I tend to do well, because I'm the customer.
Yeah, you're very relatable.
You know, I am the guy that is going to look at this and go, am I buying this? Am I smoking this? Would I buy it? Would I smoke it? You know, I'm not using focus groups. I'm not using testers. I'm not using anything. I'm just literally everything I do is just, this is what I would do. And look, sometimes I win and sometimes I lose, but I tend to win more times than I lose. And that part's good.
Well, you have the experience. I mean, we were talking about, you know, what it takes to break into the cigar industry these days. But, I mean, you said you didn't have an MBA, but you have an MBA in the cigar industry because of the time you spent learning all of the facets of the cigar industry.
Look, there's nothing better than experience, and there's nothing better than fucking things up and then figuring out how you're going to fix them.
Right.
You learn way more from the shit you mess up than you do from the stuff that goes right. So, and there's no doubt that that's a real advantage to have gone through that experience. And look, but also, some things I got a little lucky on along the way. I mean, I was essentially doing what you're doing, right? We didn't have video casts and podcasts and all of that, but I mean, I was just an Uber cigar geek writing about cigars. And then I started writing some articles for magazines, and then I ended up, I was traveling nonstop for cigars, and I knew everybody, I met everyone, I was going to factories and all of this. And I mean, my first job in the cigar business was working for Lou Rothman, where I actually earned a paycheck. And I mean, come on. I mean, he was a fucking genius, and he's still a genius when it comes to the marketing and the selling of cigars. And the fact that not only did I go work there, but I worked directly for him. I mean, I should have been paying him.
Right.
He should have been paying me. Now, I realize that now, 20 odd years into the future. And then I was, and from that, I stepped into being president of Drew Estate. And that was a great experience too. It was a total shit show when I got there, but we were in the same shit show together, and we had to figure out how to make it work. And I mean, so that was a really great experience, because you took a relatively small, inconsequential company and you grew it into a very large, significant company with tremendous infrastructure. And that was a great experience. So in some ways, I wouldn't have been in those circumstances had I not contributed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also, I was in the right circumstances. And the thing about my circumstances were, every time I did them, everyone questioned what I was doing. So like when I went to work for JR, Lou Rothman, at that time, JR was pretty much fast, fresh, and cheap. That's what JR was, right? They sold cheap cigars. They were a volume super discounter. Most of the products were inexpensive. I smoked barely any of the stuff they made. And here I was, the high-end Habano collector. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You didn't.
What are you doing going here? But I knew how much I could learn. It's kind of the same thing when I left JR, when they got bought out by Altadis. Everybody's like, oh, what's he going to do next? They're like, oh, he's going to go work for Davidoff. He's going to go work for, General. He's going to go work maybe for another up and coming, like at the time, Cigar International, right? Who was just starting to get on the radar screen. But no, I decided to go work for the Wacky Tobacco Cigar Company in Drew Estate as president. And I was like, what are you doing? It doesn't make any sense at all. But, you know, I thought it did make sense. You know, I saw things there that I was like, okay, there's something you can do something with here. And so I think that in both cases, I remember so clearly when I took the position at Drew, my big important friends, right, that are the big wigs in the cigar business, one of them said to me, what are you thinking? Why you're going to go be in charge of Romper Room? Why do you want to do that? You know, you won't even last a month. You're just going to leave, you know, and you know what? They might have been right had I not sold my house in New Hampshire and actually moved to Miami. But I'm glad I stuck it out, you know, and that was a great experience. I think I contributed a lot to the company, and I think I also learned a lot while I was at the company.
How long were you there total?
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah. I mean, officially from like June or July of 2005 till June or July of 2013. It was basically trade show to trade show. So whenever the trade shows were, a couple weeks before the trade show was when the official. In reality, though, I actually left Drew before the trade show of 2013. My actual day of being like in charge was like the end of February of 2013.
And what was your reason for leaving at the time?
And it was multiple reasons. You know, but probably the biggest one was just my wife was just she was just dissatisfied with living in Miami. So 2 years earlier, about a year and a half earlier, she just said, I've had enough of this place. We don't need the money. I don't know why you're doing this. I'm going back to New Hampshire. I'm buying a house. You know, I'll be there when you're ready to come home. And for about a year and a half, I tried to, so they transitioned me to be CEO instead of president, but it was really just a title change. My responsibilities didn't change in any way. So I was just running myself ragged, you know, had to be at the factory, had to be in Miami. Now my wife was in New Hampshire. And in the beginning, we'd see each other, you know, twice a month, you know, and then it was once a month, and it was once every other month.
Wow.
And I was like, you know, and it just finally got to, it was just impractical.
Yeah.
You know, you can't work 80 to 100 hours every week and your wife live all the way across the country and still see her.
Yeah, and you know, the thing about it for me is, and I kind of feel like it's probably the same for you as well, man, it's a big change when you don't have your wife there as your supporter. Even though she's not in the cigar industry, she's still your wife, you know?
Enough for me, it actually made me able to work more hours. And it was actually kind of in some way, I mean, I just rented a small little apartment, you know, threw some IKEA furniture in it, you know, I just, all my clothes went to the dry cleaner, you know what I mean? I just basically ate takeout every night. I barely had anything in the fridge.
But that's not a good thing, Steve.
No, it wasn't a good thing, but I'm just saying from a work point of view, I was getting a lot of work done, a tremendous amount of work done.
I mean, on your well-being side.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, but that's neither here nor there. But that was probably, look, there were a lot of reasons I left Drew, but that was probably the biggest reason, more than any one other. Because had Cindy stayed in Miami, I probably would have stayed. But once she made that leap, it then just kind of made everything else a little rougher.
Gotcha.
You know? So
when did you decide that you were going to go on your own?
I knew I was going to go back to the cigar business the day I wasn't planning on leaving the cigar business ever.
Okay.
So it's just a question of how long my non-compete was going to be. And that's something that just gets negotiated out when they bought my shares. So, I mean, and look, they were under no delusions either. And look, they all tried to talk me out of it. And I don't blame them, because the truth is, I don't know that I'll make I'm certainly not now making as much money as I was making there. That's for damn sure. And I probably won't make as much money, even if things go swimmingly at what I'm currently doing. I probably won't make as much money doing Dumbarton for probably another 4 or 5 years.
Gotcha.
So it would have been 10 years to get back to what I used to make. But if you go back to the point of view that if you don't really need to make that amount of money, then it becomes a question of other things. You know,
and how much? How about as far as your psychological well-being? I mean, you said you were putting in 80 hours a week back then. I mean, I don't know how.
Yeah, but I don't put in any less hours now.
So you're still doing the same.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, heck, I think well, let me check. I worked through the weekend, so let's see how this worked out. Because I have this stupid app. Checks how much I slept. So last night I slept 3 hours and 23 minutes. The day before I slept what? Let's see if I can figure out how to use this app. The day before I actually got I got 0 sleep the day before.
Man.
Logged me no sleep. The day before that, it counted me for 4 hours and 57 minutes. It just goes on and on. Day before that, 4 hours and 39 minutes. Day before that, 3 hours and 59 minutes. So I'm getting about what, 4 hours? Oh, wow. I had a day here. I got 6 hours and 1 minute.
Man, you slept in.
I slept in. That was Wednesday. Actually, I went to bed early is what it was. But look, I'm choosing to do that.
I was going to say, are you happy doing that?
This is a weird question. What I've learned about myself is I'm happy when I'm miserable. So some odd way, the more stressed out, the more chaotic, the more I got to do is when I'm actually the happiest. I can't explain it. I used to think it was just that I was a workaholic, but it isn't the workaholic part.
Yeah, because I'm a workaholic, but I'm not only getting 3-4 hours of sleep a night either.
I just like to be miserable.
You like to punish yourself.
I'm smarter when I'm miserable. I'm sharper when I'm miserable. I don't know. I can't even explain it. It's a hard thing to explain, but it is. It's the reality of the situation.
So let me ask you this: do you still enjoy Cuban cigars?
Yeah, but not to the same degree. I mean, so you have to understand, you know, in the 90s, the bulk of the cigars that were available in the U.S. marketplace were relatively mild, quintessential Dominican style cigars.
Okay.
And I always preferred heavier cigars. I mean, not always, but for the bulk, I pretty much graduated into the heavier stuff pretty early on. And at that time, Cuban cigars were heavier. Now, today, Cuban cigars aren't. And it's not that Cuban cigars have changed. It's just that the market is so dramatically changed, primarily with the advent of the success of Nicaragua and the tobaccos that we utilize grown in Nica and Honduras and these much thicker, much heavier materials. So for me, where I used to smoke, 7-8 Cuban cigars a day, I'm now in an average week probably smoking 2 or 3. And they're almost always kind of early day cigars or the last of the day cigar, just kind of as a wind down or a wind up kind of thing. But not even normally as my first cigar of the day, to be honest with you. I still smoke Habanos, but 2-3 a week is kind of what I smoke.
Okay.
And you got to figure I'm smoking an average of about 10 cigars a day. So out of every 70 cigars I smoke, probably 2 or 3 of them are Habanos at this point.
So you're smoking 10 cigars a day. I've always said, I saw you on Cigar Daily, I don't know, 2 years ago, and I think y'all calculated up in the neighborhood at that time you had smoked 75,000 cigars.
Yeah, I actually kind of refined that math. I think I'm actually pushing close to 100K right now.
Wow.
I mean, I actually think I'm over 100K, but I feel confident that I'm like over 95 for sure. Like not even a question.
Yeah. And see, I haven't
like
graduated.
everybody else. I mean, when I started smoking, it was like 1 cigar a month. Then it was like 1 cigar a week. And then it was 2 cigars a week. So in those early years, it took me a while to ramp up to where I was doing like 5, 6 cigars a day. But I've been pretty much on a 10 cigar a day diet now since pretty much about 1998.
So when you say 10 cigars a day, is that smoking the entire cigar?
It depends. No. I mean, like today I'm going through a lot of samples. So today I'm probably going to light like 20 cigars.
Wow.
You know what I mean? But, here, is it just... So I've already emptied this ashtray 3 times, and there's still 2, one that's half finished and one that I got, maybe an inch into.
Gotcha.
And I'm working on this one now. So today I've already clipped and lit 9 cigars.
Damn.
Yeah. I think in totality, I think I smoked somewhere around, let's put it in linear inches, 45 inches of cigar a day. Something like that. Probably works out to be about that. 45 inches. Yeah, probably somewhere around there. Maybe. Some days I might even get in 60.
Damn. All right. So,
but I also smoke across the size spectrum too. So I smoke Coronas. And I rarely smoke Gigantes. I rarely smoke cigars that are over 6 inches. I think almost all the cigars I smoke personally, they tend to fall into kind of like the Cuban Corona Gorda, kind of like that 5 5/8 by 46-ish, 6 by 48, 6 by 52. Those 3 sizes probably make up probably 80% of what I smoke.
Okay, that's kind of like what I smoke. I used to be, back when I first started, and I thought I was cool with the 6 by 60. You remember those days? But as I progressed, now I'm really into that, 5 by 46 to 5 by 50.
Right. And look, for a lot of people, I think that kind of more Robusto size is, it's very popular, right? Toro, Robusto are the 2 top selling sizes, regardless of the brand. If it isn't an exclusive cigar that's made in an exclusive size, it's almost universally those 2 SKUs are 1 and 2. Okay, the order might flip. I think for a lot of consumers, the Robusto makes sense because they don't have the luxury of me. I'm smoking in my office. I'm smoking in my truck. I smoke in my house. I smoke everywhere, right? So if I'm not sleeping, and we can see how many hours I'm sleeping, I can be smoking for the most part, right?
That's where you beat me, Steve. See, if I only slept 3 hours a day, I could smoke 10, 12 cigars a day. And right now, I average about 7 to 8 a day, which,
that's a lot.
That is a lot.
You're a heavy consumer.
I'm a very heavy consumer. I start out, I usually light up my first cigar at 7 a.m. I have my coffee, and then I have a conference call at 8 o'clock, and I light up another cigar during that conference call. And then when that's over in about an hour, then I usually light up one more just to finish up all my work. And then usually I'll go get something to eat, and then I go by the cigar shop, and I sit down and I smoke another cigar. So usually by noon, I've had 4.
There you go.
And so it just works out that way.
And I typically, by noon, I'll typically have had 4 also.
But see, I'm not staying up till 2 in the morning like you are, so I can't keep up.
So, look, I don't recommend it to anybody.
No.
I mean, the average consumer smokes 2 to 3 cigars a week.
Right.
The guys that are probably going to watch this program, they probably smoke more than that.
Oh, yeah.
Because anybody that's going to watch me prattle on is not an example of the typical consumer for the most part.
I was going to say they're not normal, but yeah, consumer is another one too.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just so, but there's a group of us that are very heavy consumers of the product. And a lot of the people, I mean, most of the people that are actually in the cigar business are heavy consumers of the product. So it doesn't surprise me, but it's not an inexpensive thing to do. I mean, talk about how many cigars I smoke. When I look at what the average price point of what I smoke is, I'm well over $1 million out of pocket on cigars.
Well, that's why you're not making as much money, Steve. You need to quit smoking it all.
But I asked myself that question. Could I have the $1 million, or could I, if I had a choice between not having smoked any cigars for the last 3 decades or having the extra $1 million, which would I prefer? I would rather have smoked the cigars for the last 30 years.
I understand that completely, because down in Texas how badass it is to have a F-350 crew cab 4-wheel drive pickup, right?
Right, sure.
And that's probably about $85,000-$90,000.
Absolutely.
And if I didn't smoke cigars, I could afford one of those.
You absolutely could.
But I make that choice because I'm not going to enjoy that truck near as much as I do my cigars.
Look, we all make those choices with everything, right?
Absolutely.
Some people like to spend a lot of money eating out. Some people like to spend money on fancy watches. Some people like to spend money on their boats. You know what I mean? So, everybody decides where they want to piss their money away and what makes them happy.
Right.
And I made the decision a long time ago. For me, it was cigars that made me happy. That's where I pissed my money away.
Not a bad way to go. All right, man. I know you're a busy man. I don't want to keep you much longer, but I do have one more question for you. And this is the question that I heard possibly could make you blow a gasket.
All right. Let's see.
When do you think the DTT EX38 release will be available?
Well, the cigars have been finished, so they're sitting in the cool rooms. I know originally I was thinking it was going to be September-ish, but I have a feeling now that all the cigars were actually in the cool room before this last trip down. So that means the last cigars were produced about the middle of April. I think that those cigars may end up being delivered August.
Well, let me tell you, for all the guys watching this, I just heard them all cheer.
Yeah, look, I don't have a reason to make them longer. Whenever they're ready to go. And the other thing too, I don't want this batch to have anything different than the last batch.
Gotcha.
So I don't want this batch to have more time or less time in the cool room. I want them to have the same amount of time and Esperates. So that way consumers are getting the same experience that the people that got in on the first batch got.
Gotcha.
So it really was a question of when could we squeeze the production in. Luckily, it's a very small production. So I just basically took 2 Sin Compromiso pairs and I just reallocated their labor time to making those EX38s. And just, gave up on, just be a little bit further behind on Sin, which I don't think matters because the box maker is so far behind on Sin that when the box guy is now talking to me about who wants to know how many boxes I want next February, for God's sakes, I used to have to give him 90 days and then I had to give him 120 days. And now this dude wants what? What's 10 months? 10 months is 300 days notice.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Wow.
So I actually don't think that taking away from Sin production is actually going to change anything because I'm having trouble getting the damn boxes. I'm having trouble getting the cedar wraps for the cigars even.
Wow.
Everything has become a logistical nightmare courtesy of COVID and then this kind of boom that's happening right now. So the combination of the two is just making it really, really difficult. And you see the number of new products that people are releasing.
Oh, so, it's crazy.
Yeah, these packaging people are they're at overdrive right now. And I'm not the squeakiest of wheel when it comes to that kind of stuff. Nor am I a big enough customer. I can't really swing my dick around and say, oh, you got to do this, Vargas, because, you're making for me every single month 45,000 boxes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pedro Vargas is making me a few thousand boxes a month. How can I really say to him, give me priority pole position when he's got other customers that are giving him 10 times that amount of work all the time?
Right.
I kind of have to. It's something I kind of have to accept unless I'm going to open a box factory, and I'm not. I kind of want to open a box factory. It's the last thing I want to get into. So, but yeah, I think luckily for those EX38s, there's no packaging. It's a simple factory sample ring on them, and it's a white little bundle wrap with a handwritten thing and a rubber stamp on it. So there's no packaging concerns with that. It's just a matter of making the girls miserable and having them handwrite on all those bundles. But other than that, pay them a little extra. They're happy to do it.
Awesome. So. Well, hey, man, thanks for taking the time to hang out with us and give us some great information, man. We're a big fan of what you do, and we can't wait till Jay Patterson is ready to get your line, Dumbarton Tobacco Products, in his cigar shop. He just reopened a new shop. They had to move because the old building was donated to a hospital, and the hospital said, we don't want tobacco in one of our buildings. So they had to move, but they opened up this badass lounge versus what we used to have. So it was actually a blessing long term. But he wants to get your products in there, and I'll pass on the information that he needs to get.
Tell him to call the office, Just tell him, talking to me is a waste of time because I have zero to do with accounts and sales and all of that. I don't even know how it works. If you ask me, what do you have to do to open a Dumbarton account? I honestly can't tell you the answer to that question. I honestly don't know.
Fair enough.
I'm so disconnected for how they're handling that, and I figure until a lot of people start bitching about it, it can't be too bad.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because cigar shop owners are quick to bitch. So if it was a real problem, I would have heard about it. So
well, good
obviously
deal.
They're doing something right over there. But yeah, look, my goal is I want to be in every shop that wants us. But at the same time, I'm not going to try to talk a shop into carrying the product. I mean, look, we do these trade shows, but it still doesn't force someone to come into your booth and sit down and look at stuff. You know what I mean?
Sure.
They have to make the proactive step to do that. And I'm of the mindset that, and I've said this many times before, I mean, what am I going to say? My cigars are great. My cigars are the best. My cigars sell well. Well, that's what everybody that's trying to sell cigars says, right?
Right.
So they hear that 8 million times. That's all they ever hear. So for me, it's way better if the retailer expresses an interest. And normally a retailer only expresses an interest because they got customers that express an interest.
Consumers are doing your sales pitch for you.
Right, because the reality is the retailer, he really doesn't want to bring in anything new. I mean, if he could just sell what he's got all the time consistently, then he's just happy doing that. You know what I mean? He doesn't have, and I'm not saying it's true of all retailers. There's some retailers that also have a little bit of a cigar geek streak to them, and they get into the new stuff. But for all practical purposes, they just want things on their shelves that are going to turn. And whether it turns or not has way more to do with the consumer than it has to do with the individual shop. Now, where that flips around a little bit is if you get lucky and you're in a shop where you end up having some sort of champion in that store, whether it be the owner, and not normally the owner, it's normally one of the clerks that works the store on a day in, day out basis that actually interacts with each cigar customer. And, because look, we all do it. I do it. I walk in the store. I don't tend to ask what's new, but I do tend to ask what's one of your favorites right now? What are you really enjoying? What are your customers really liking? Is there anything in here that you think is really interesting that I ought to try? You know what I mean? So I am even asking, right? So if that person decides, if someone comes in and says, hey, I like really dark, heavier, fuller body Maduros, well, what are the 3-4 brands that the clerk ends up deciding to show that customer?
Right.
And if your brand happens to be one of them, then that helps you tremendously in that individual store, because then you kind of have someone that's like, oh, he really likes these products, and therefore, because look, people don't want to recommend things that they don't think you're going to enjoy, right?
Sure.
You don't want to burn that trust that you have. Look, you're not going to bat 1,000, but you do eventually get to learn your customers. And you do get to learn what they like and what they dislike and what they favor. And you can kind of steer them into a cigar that makes sense for them. And if your cigar can be one of those cigars, then that's a tremendous value, and that makes a huge difference. So I know for us, just letting the growth happen organically has probably been one of the smartest things I've done, rather than trying to force more sales.
Gotcha. Organically is always best long term. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, I couldn't, if we were really doing because we're not a good marketing company. I know everyone thinks we are, but we're really not. Drew Estate's a great marketing company. Okay. Davidoff's a great marketing company, but I'm not saying that as a negative.
Sure.
I'm saying it actually is a positive. But we're not there yet by any stretch of the imagination. And if we were really good at marketing, I don't think that we could actually handle the demand in any way. I mean, we're struggling now.
Yeah, because when you grow exponentially like that, the problems that you have now just multiply.
Right, because I'm always thinking about 3, 4, 5 years from now. I mean, I have Exclusivo. There's not a single tobacco in an Exclusivo that's under 5 years of bale age. So I'm having to use what's currently happening to decide what tobaccos I'm going to buy for a cigar that may or may not sell 5 years from now. You know what I mean? And and therein lies the challenge, is you're always constantly trying to balance out your growth needs with also the amount of cash you have too. It's not like there's unlimited cash. I mean, there is a limit. And so it's tough. It's a tough gig. That's why I'm always impressed by people that navigate it and are ultimately successful. You know, whether I like their product or not, there's still something to be said about finding a way to navigate. And everybody kind of finds their own path and does it their own way. I'm kind of going about it a little bit different, you know, with the way I'm doing it now. But I'm sure.
I don't think there's a lot of young companies like doing it the way you do it.
Well, I think in a lot of cases they don't have the confidence that they can get away with it. You know what I mean?
Well, because they don't have the experience that you brought to the table when you started this either.
Right, and look, and they're very worried about where their products fit in price point wise, and that makes a big difference. And look, the truth is, there's way more $8 to $10 cigar smokers than there are, $13 to $15 cigar smokers.
Sure.
So you have a much bigger market potential in the 8 to 10 group than you ever do, because I mean, most of my cigars are like $12 to $18, $19.
Right.
I mean, other than Umbagog is the only thing I have that's sub 10, and it's only sub 10 because Mi Querida, if I didn't need a place to put the less aesthetically pleasing wrappers, I wouldn't even have Umbagog. So Umbagog essentially it's not a byproduct in the way it's a segundo. You know what I mean? It's not that, it's the ugly Mi Queridas, but I do use the materials that I don't deem worthy to be in a Mi Querida to make Umbagogs out. Now, that doesn't mean that the consumer won't actually prefer the Umbagog over the Mi Querida. They might. And when they do the math in their head, they may say, heck, I can smoke an Umbagog for $8.75, or I can smoke a Mi Querida for $13. All right, I like the Umbagog. And I happen to like it better. That's even great. That's a better win. But the truth is, Umbagog wouldn't exist. So I don't have something for Sobremesa. I don't have something for Todos Las Dias. I don't have anything like that from Wester to Saka. It's just the way the materials work in the Connecticut broadleaf that you have to buy so much of it. And you're always going to be lucky if you get cherry coming out of that Palone 40% wrapper. You know what I mean? I mean, when you hit 60 in a Palone like that, you're just doing dances over the moon. You're so ecstatic. You're like, oh my God, I hit the lotto for a change. But that's not normally the way it works out. You only end up getting like 35 to 40%. Even if you're buying really good, in the end, when you're getting that kind of grade that deserves to be on that type of cigar, it's limited. So what do you do with all those other materials? Well, in the case of some things, you just sell them off and you just cash recover. But the thing is, the broadleaf costs so much that cash recovering on it's really just losing big time. So it's better if you can find a way to utilize it, because it's perfectly good Connecticut broadleaf.
Gotcha.
You know, look at a lot of manufacturers, they would use that Omagog wrapper on a $12 to $14 cigar, and they wouldn't even blink an eye at it. You know what I mean? I mean, we all see it. I mean, I see Maduro cigars on the shelves that cost $15 to $17, but I think the wrappers on Omagog are actually, you know, better quality than the wrappers on their $15, $16, $17 cigars. But, you know, that's not what I want to do, so I don't care.
Well, I think that's why people don't. I mean, when I want to smoke one of your cigars, I smoke one of your cigars. You know what I mean? I don't look at the price tag. I know I want to smoke that cigar. And so I think that because that's the way you treat the process on selection, that we understand that we're paying for what we're getting. It's excellent. You know,
look, in the end, you're going to have to make the decision as a consumer. Do you feel as though it was good value for your money? And if you don't feel as though it was good value for your money, then ultimately you won't buy it again.
Right.
And look, and there's a lot of consumers that I'm sure they smoke my cigars and they don't feel as they're like, hey, I'm really happy with this cigar from XYZ factory that costs $8. There's no reason to spend that amount of money. And I don't begrudge them that, because that's the decision that we all make.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So, but I just, you know, so for me, I just don't worry about competing with the $8, $9, $10 cigars. I worry about competing with cigars that are in the same price point.
Sure.
You know, and I worry about, does the consumer feel, because that's the universal question we always ask ourselves, regardless of how much we spend on something, whether it be that fully loaded F350 with a King Ranch interior, which I got to admit, I'm kind of thinking about, because I have an old Ford Raptor I bought in 2012. It's got like nearly 200,000 miles on it. Engine's fantastic in it. All the other crap around it, getting a little bit tired.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And when you start thinking about new transmission and, you know, the big stuff, you're like, wow, I'm gonna have to sink like 18K, 20K into this vehicle to kind of get it back to where it was. And for a truck that's got 200,000 miles on it,
and it's from 2012.
Yeah, I'm thinking, it just kind of makes me go, well, 2012 would have been a problem. I hadn't put so many damn miles on that thing. And so I'm now wondering, I held off on buying a new one because those new Raptors are stupid expensive. They, when I bought my Raptor, it was only like 4K more than a fully loaded FX4. It was $52,500. That was sticker on.
Wow.
I had to pay sticker off the lot. But now you can't even touch that truck for less than 80, right? And really, and you can't even get the same truck currently because all they have is the V6 twin turbo model, which I don't want at all. So, you know, this year Dodge launched their T-Rex.
Oh yeah.
And I went and I looked at it and I hated it. Sorry, Dodge, didn't like your truck. I wish I'd liked it because I need a replacement truck and I was getting tired of waiting on the V8 from Ford. Now Ford is saying that next year they're going to release a V8 version of the Raptor. But I'm also asking myself, would I be more comfortable in a big, you know, 250 or a 350 with a King Ranch interior?
That King Ranch interior sure is nice.
Oh, it's sweet. It's a sweet interior. I mean, with that heavy duty baseball glove leather with the stitching.
Yeah, it's like a saddle leather.
Yeah, it is like a saddle leather. It's fantastic. So I've actually been thinking about that. You know, maybe that makes more sense because I actually use my truck. I mean, I haul shit. My truck's all dinged up and scratched, and you know, and I don't baby it. I don't hot rod it, but I don't baby it either. I actually use the damn thing. And,
yeah, it's a truck.
It's a truck. You know, what I want to sit up high. I want the vehicle to be wide like me. Okay. And I want when I hit somebody that they're the loser in the equation. That's what I want. You know what I mean?
Oh, I do.
You know, so I like having the weight. You know what I mean? It's it's just from a safety perspective, it makes so much more sense.
Yeah, you're the big dog for sure.
You don't find a lot of people that end up dying in 7,000 and 8,000 pound vehicles. You know what I mean?
Right.
Unless they're hitting a wall or they're hitting a tree or they're hitting a electrical pole. But if they're in a collision with another car, they're typically not the loser in that equation.
No, they're the winner.
Right. So, and I like, and the other thing too is I'm terrible. Anytime I rent a car, I always end up tearing off I scratch or ding up that whole skirt on the front because I'm so used to not paying attention to how high a curb is, or right. You know what I mean? Pulling too far into a parking spot. I got a real metal bumper. If I hit it,
when you said when you said you peel something off, I thought you were going to say you peeled off the no smoking tag.
No, I'm beyond that. I'm at a point now that I'm lighting the cigar in the car when I'm picking it up. I don't even pretend. I just look at, there's certain things that I've just come to accept in life. I have to fly first class. I'm too fat. Okay. I got 3 million air miles on American. Okay. So I have upgrades coming out the wazoo. Problem is you can't always guarantee that you're going to get the upgrade, even when you're at the very tippy top tier. Right. So I don't fit in coach. It don't happen. So if I fly somewhere, I got to always buy a business class seat. It's just the way it is. That's the fat tax. I could choose to be skinny. I choose to be fat. So therefore I pay that. And it's the same thing with the rental cars. Like if I'm renting the car for a day, I won't smoke in it. But if I'm in that car for a week, the question is, do I pay a $350 cleaning fee? Do I pay $50 extra a day to smoke in that vehicle?
Absolutely.
Fuck yes, I'm smoking in this vehicle. And I don't even bother when the girl asks, like, yeah, I smoke. She just starts, I'm like, yeah, I know. I smoked in it. And she's like, well, and I'm like, yeah, I know. It's $350. And she's like, and I'm like, it's okay. I'm like, that's where I'm at.
I don't mention it and they don't mention it. I've never mentioned it and they've never brought it to my attention.
Well, I'll tell you something that's lately become a little bit of a gambit. So let me give a tip to your listeners.
All right, let's hear it.
When you get, people always did that trick. Well, the vehicle smells like smoke when I picked it up. Well, they're too on to that trick, right?
Yeah.
Complain about the truck smelling like weed.
Ah.
Because they are now getting a lot of vehicles back that people are smoking weed in. Okay? They get way more return rental vehicles that people smoke weed in than they smoke cigarettes in or cigars in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right? So, and the thing is, the cigar smell is kind of funky in there, right?
Right.
So,
and if you're not a cigar smoker, you don't know what a cigar smells like.
Right. So, honestly, complaining about the weed smell in the vehicle, actually, I've heard a lot of people having a lot of recent success with the weed complaint rather than, the vehicle already smelled like smoke.
See, somebody I was talking to not long ago said what he does, he rents the car, he hits the road, and he calls them about an hour and a half later and say, hey, man, I can't hardly take it. This car smells like smoke. And they're like, right. Bring it back. And they're like, I'm already on the road. I can't.
Right. Here's the thing. I don't do that. And I don't even do the weed thing because I have this thing. Eventually I'm going to die, right? I'm going to arrive at the pearly gates. And there's going to be St. Peter. He's going to say to me, okay, Saka, you lived a life, and some of it you were kind of sucky and bad, and some of it you were good at. It was really close. But you lying about you smoking in that rental car is what tipped you over the edge and you're going to hell. I don't want that to be the deciding factor.
You don't want that to be the tipping point.
Right. I don't want that to be the tipping point. So for me, I've always had this attitude that if I'm going to go down, I want it to be for like mass murder. You know what I mean? I want it to be for something serious. I want it to be like, I want it to be like, I want to be the crazy, what was his name? I can't even remember his name. The guy that did the pyramid scheme, Bernie.
Oh, Madoff. Bernie Madoff. Yes.
Madoff, yeah. Yeah. I want it to be big. You know what I mean? I want it to be where I really like, that was evil. That was wrong. You know what I mean?
Well, that's where I've always just been lucky. They tell me no smoking in the car. I smoke the entire time, and when I come back, I don't mention it. They don't mention it, and I go on about my business.
And they do actually make a really good product. You can get it at almost any auto supply store now. They make this. Like, remember when you live? Well, you may still do this. I'm not kidding. remember those defogger bombs, those roach bombs that you put in your apartment?
Yeah.
You set off the aerosol can and you have to go away for 4 hours.
Right.
They don't make those aerosol can air fresheners, the little bombs that you set off. You put it in your cup holder and you leave the vehicle running on recirc with the air conditioning on high. So it sucks all that through the ventilation system and it completely fogs the car. Because I even do that in my truck once every 4 or 5 months. I'll set one of those suckers off in there. It does a pretty damn good job. Costs like $7.
Wow.
You know? Yeah, it takes about 15 minutes. It takes about 15 minutes for the fogger, and then you really need to like let the car air out for about an hour. So you need to drive it with the windows down or something because it's really intense. You know that.
There's a good tip right there. That's a Saka tip.
Yeah, but those work really, really well. They're probably one of the better products, and the reason why is because it's going through the ventilation system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you got that air conditioner cranked on high on recirc, so it's pulling through all the vents in the vehicle, and that helps a lot. So.
Well, hey man, we know you got to get busy doing something other than just hanging out.
Vegas is what my next. I gotta finish up the work I'm working on now, and then start packing, I guess.
Do you ever take vacation?
Yes. I tend to. Here's the way it's been working. Every year we rent a house on Lake Umbagog, and I always pay for it the year before. So that way it forces me to either sacrifice the money
or you have to go.
Or I have to go. But here's the problem. My schedule's so topsy-turvy that I'm to the point now that I'm renting the house for 3 weeks in August. And rarely do I get to be there more than 10 days. But I don't know what 10 days it's normally going to be, because of just all the stuff that's going on. So, but I normally get at least a week and a half of fishing, and at least that way.
And when you go, do you turn your phone off?
No, you never can turn your phone off.
Man,
that don't exist. Those days are done.
Well, as a cigar podcast show, all my friends who are in the cigar industry in one way or the other, they're going to see you this week at TPE.
I think a lot of them aren't. I don't think there's a lot of us going.
Well, I heard a few of the cigar podcasters are going. I know Cigar Pulpit's going.
I saw something about how about that cigar. I saw something today on Instagram that he was going to be there.
I will not be there because I took vacation, and instead of going to TPE, I've rented an Airbnb. 3 of my buddies are going to meet me there, and we're going to drink bourbon and smoke cigars and play Texas Hold'em for 4 days.
Yeah, it's a good way to go about it. I mean, it's way more economical than being in any of the hotels.
Well, I just decided it'd be more fun to hang out and smoke cigars with no cell phones without a care in the world than to fly to Vegas. And although I would love to hang out with some of the guys I know, I'm going to do something I haven't done in like 5 years. You know what I mean?
Good for you. Yeah, look.
You only live once, man.
The world doesn't end by not going, let me tell you that. So I don't know. Like I said, I've heard some look, we all know the big 4 are going to PCA, but I've heard some other companies that I would have thought would have definitely gone or considering not going to PCA.
Really?
Which kind of surprises me. Yeah. I actually don't understand it. Look, I understand the cost of going. I really understand the cost of going. But I don't understand why you would pull out completely. I mean, why not just rent a 10 by 20 spot and put some sofas and chairs in it and just be there to say hello to your customers? I mean, even if you're not there, if you're not worried about sales, like we're going to TPE, I'm not worried about sales. I have no expectation of sales. I'll be stunned if we sell very much product there. I mean, it's only 2 months before PCA. I'm not giving any deals. So why do it? I'm doing it because if a customer is willing to take their time to go out of their way, why shouldn't I take my time to go out of the way, at least to be there to
I love it. I love that. And I mean, it's like, to me, if I was going to do it, I wouldn't have a huge, crazy booth, but I would love to be there shaking hands and smoking cigars and drinking bourbon with guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing is the booth sizes got way out of control at PCA, and honestly, I blame the manufacturers, but I also blame the PCA. They allowed it to happen. They allowed it to happen because they made more money. And what they really should have been doing is they should have just been charging more for booth space if they needed more money, but not encouraging the show to get physically larger.
Right.
Because when the show got physically larger, it then limits the number of cities you can go to. And then it also dramatically, look, the cost of the booth space is really inconsequential. I think right now, PCA booth runs about $1,800 per 10 by 10, right? So you could have a 10 by 20, the space is $3,600. The problem is it's the carpeting and it's the furniture and it's the drayage and it's the electricity and it's the Wi-Fi connection and it's the lights and it's all those things that make it really, really expensive. And then on top of that, it's how much of your team, your staff you have to bring. And I mean, these big companies, I mean, they're all bringing 50 to 100 people with them.
Wow.
And they all have to be in hotels and they all have to get money for food and they all have to have airfare. And that puts you got to sell a lot of damn cigars, to even begin to cover the expenses. But it's also kind of their fault. They let it get that way. They didn't have to let it be that way. But then they say their argument would be, well, if we don't make our booth as big as so-and-so's booth, then it looks like we're failing and they're succeeding. And everybody likes to buy from winners and nobody likes to buy from losers. And I understand that. But look, Fuente's been in relatively the same size booth setup now for, I think, good almost 20 years, right? It's not that they don't write orders at the trade show. They do. But their focus isn't on writing orders. Their focus is just, saying hi to their customers and thanking them for their business and, hey, what's going right? What's wrong? What's working for you? What can we do for you? I mean, you can have all of those conversations. And the other thing too, is I think that the trade show organizations have so focused so long on the deal aspect that they've miseducated their own customers, which are the retailers, their members, that you shouldn't be doing the trade show for discounts. You get the discounts anyways. Why do I care if you're coming to the trade show or not coming to the trade show, right?
Right.
I mean, I'm in the business of making and then ultimately selling cigars. So, I mean, they can put up whatever roadblocks they want, but as soon as one company violates whatever that is, then every other company has no choice because you have to be competitive with everybody else. So trying to make it to where the deals are the primary focus on the trade show scenario is just not really what it should be about. It should be about seeing the new product, should be about education, should be interacting with the manufacturers. And also one of the greatest values is interacting with your peers that are also retailers that, that way you can, actually learn something because you'll always learn something from somebody, right? Just
Absolutely.
Talking to them, something you didn't know, something you didn't think of, a different perspective. And that's the real value. But the problem is when you make the show so large, the companies feel so much pressure to sell a certain amount. And on top of that, it makes it miserable on the retailer because now the guy's got to go like fucking across Ponderosa to get to anything. I mean, you're on that trade show floor and it's so massive that if you have an appointment at one end to the other end, it can take you 25 minutes to get across the trade show floor. And you spend so much of your day as a retailer going in circles, walking. You know what I mean? It's just a big waste of time. And I think that's something that they really need to start to think about is they need to make it easier. And if you just get rid of the walking time involved, think of how many more hours the retailers have with educational stuff. Right. You know what I mean? And other things. But
next year they're going to give everybody a scooter. I'm just messing with you.
I don't even know that's such a bad idea. I mean, I can see the bumper car thing happening already. That part will be bad, but it's a lot. It's a lot of distance.
I've heard you're walking 12 hours a day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're in those giant Vegas casinos, so it's 1 million miles to anywhere, right? And then you get to the trade show floor, and it's 1 million miles in the trade show floor. It's a lot. Like, I don't even pretend. I wear sneakers.
Nice.
I don't give a fuck. If anyone's buying cigars because of the pair of shoes I'm wearing, they shouldn't be buying cigars from me. Right. You know what I mean? I wear a pair of New Balance or Skechers is what I'm wearing on my feet.
Very
Nice.
nice.
I'll put on a real pair of shoes to go out to dinner, maybe, but I'm not dressing up in a suit and wearing hard soled shoes.
I could not imagine you in a suit. I've never seen you in a suit.
Funerals and weddings at this point in my life.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, hey man, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. I enjoyed so much hanging out with you, brother. Well, have a good one. Have a good time. And when you're at the TPE, if you run into Nick Smith from Cigar Pulpit, do me a favor and punch him in the gut.
Will do.
All right, man. No have a great week. Safe travels, brother.
Thank you, man. You have a great day.
You too. You enjoyed that interview with Steve Saka. Dude, that was a great interview for me. I hope you enjoyed it because that's a guy that has been on my bucket list, so to speak, for a while. And I just enjoyed sitting back and listening to Steve because when you know a guy that's got that much experience in the industry, there's no reason for you to be talking. So I wish, you know what we should do is just mute out all the places where I spoke because that dude just gave us gold. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So Jay's nodding his head.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the interview. We've got Jay Patterson back with me. I wanted to get him on over here so that we could, I want you guys to know Jay Patterson from The Leaf. I mean, the guy's holding up the Light 'em Up Crew poker chips. Thank you, Jay. Thank you. You know, and when Jay got here, I didn't realize I hadn't given him one yet. Jay has been with Cigar Talk. I mean, he's watched it from its infancy. Jay, do you remember when I actually worked at The Leaf?
I did. Yes, that it was a very nice time thinking that we would have some coverage on the weekends.
Yeah.
And then your other job changed schedules, and then that kind of threw everything through the window.
Because didn't I work Friday nights?
Yes.
Yeah, because I was off on my regular job on Friday and Saturday. So I was able to work at The Leaf for, I think it was about 6-7 weeks.
Yeah.
And you know what? It was a great experience. It's like when you love the cigars and the cigar community, it's like, how can I experience more?
Right.
And it's like, go work at a shop.
No kidding.
You know what I mean? If you love cigars, there's lots of shops that would love to have you come in and fill in because they got hours that are tough to cover because the regular guys don't ever get to have those time periods off.
That's true. Absolutely true. It was a blessing to have somebody that's so invested in cigars that wanted to devote that time to working. And I remember talking to Bill thinking, this is it. Like, this is the dream team. And then, out of your control, something happened. Your schedule changed. And then things got kind of thrown through their loop. But
it was a fun run.
It was a fun run, I tell you what.
It was, you know what, it was so fun for me too because it's like, as a cigar lover, you want to know the other side of the business. You know what I mean? I know what it's like to buy cigars and smoke cigars, but what's it like on the other side? And I'll tell you what, man, it was an eye-opening experience for me. It's like you're busy all the time, and your goal in life at the moment that a customer needs any assistance is to create the ultimate experience for that guy. And that's what you do at The Leaf, and that's why I love watching you work. And, I mean, you're a good-looking guy. So, no, I'm just kidding you, but you know what I mean. It's like if you are really concerned about the experience for the cigar smoker, and I know that you are because I've watched you with customers that even I'm going to tell you now, I'd be like, oh, this dude's coming in again. And you're like, hey, man, what's going on? How's your day? I mean, you never stop. You are genuinely interested in your people. And that's not a common thing.
I appreciate you noticing. The biggest thing was when I took over the shop with Corey, Bill had told me that no matter what, it has to stay about the people. And that's really stuck with me. And regardless if it's who we call the wizard or, whatever.
I want to know who the hell you're calling the wizard.
I don't think you do.
Was that Dwayne?
No.
Because if you put a pointed hat on him, I'm thinking he looks like a wizard.
No.
Come on, man.
True, but no.
And the wisdom that he has.
That's true. Yeah, the wisdom that he has.
I mean, the wizard is the old guy that knows shit. And Dwayne's taught me so much. And, the thing about it is, when you're around a guy that knows what Dwayne knows, and you, shout out some shit to the group to sound like you know what the fuck you're talking about, Dwayne will fucking cut your legs out from underneath you and be like, nope, that's not true.
But
and I love that because he's a true teacher.
And the nice thing about Dwayne is he'll say it in such a way.
In a nice way.
Yes.
Not like me.
That you won't look like an asshole.
Right.
So it's like, well, actually.
Yes. Because he's corrected me many times back when I thought I knew what the hell was up. And, dude, now when Dwayne talks, I'm like, I'm all ears.
Right.
Because there's wisdom being spoken.
And we're so fortunate to have Dwayne back. He's been gone for a year because of COVID, and now Dwayne's back. He's on a limited schedule, but he's back. And
he's making progress.
Yeah.
And he's such a valuable asset.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have a really great staff in general.
I do.
I mean, your main go-to guy, Scott.
Yes.
But then you've got Alan Turner.
Yes.
Comes to work in a jacket and a bow tie.
Alan is our tobacco, pipe tobacco
expert.
Dwayne is sort of everything. Scott,
dude, yeah,
is my enforcer.
Well, Scott is the one who does all the dirty work.
Yeah.
And the good work. But Scott knows the whole entire operation. He does it all. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
But then you got Dwayne. I said Dwayne.
Dwayne?
Dwayne. And that dude's knowledge across the board, whether it be cigars, pipes, pipe tobacco, cutters, lighters, he knows the whole package.
Yeah. He took a year off and he has not skipped a beat. He just knows.
Yeah.
And it's very, very.
How's he look? Because I haven't been down there yet when he's working, so I can't wait to go down and see him.
Oh, he looks great. And so not everybody knows he had some major surgery during COVID. Not COVID related, but good grief, like he is top notch. He's the Dwayne that I remember from 2004.
Awesome, dude.
And,
awesome.
And so, he's working on his stamina, but at the same time, he is knowledge-wise, you can't get rid of that.
Dude,
and he is just...
where could you in Abilene, Texas find a replacement for that dude?
In Abilene?
I narrowed the field.
Nowhere.
I mean, the dude's got experience. You can't replace that. And then you've got Colton and Casey on the weekends.
Yep.
And those dudes are just like, when you walk in, hey, I know this brother. Oh, I never met him before, but he's a brother. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Like Colton has a way to engage with people. He has not to scare anybody off, he has that mentality of just reaching your life.
Yeah, how can I
connecting.
Engage with you?
Exactly.
100%. Yeah. And dude, I mean, I've known Colton for probably 2 years, 3 years, and I feel that special connection every time I strike up a conversation with him.
Yeah. And Casey's just, man, Casey could sell, to sound cliche, Casey could sell an Eskimo a popsicle made out of ketchup. Like, he is just, he's not just a great salesman, he's very personable. He knows what you want.
And he's
he listens.
A sexy dude.
He is very, very sexy. And
you know what? We're going to get him on the show soon.
Ladies that are listening.
He's off the market.
He is off the market.
Yeah. Him and Julio, they're going to be very happy together. Anyway, guys, we're going to wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed the shows. Steve Saka, hats off. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Jay, thank you for taking the evening and spending it with us. I think you should make this happen more often.
Absolutely.
I love that because when Jay says something, you know the dude is 100%. He does not bullshit. So anyway, man, we look forward to having you on the show again. Thank you for coming out. And until next time,
keep smoking.
Boom.